some of the major points. So let's get started. Chapter 9. We're going to start out with verses 1 and 2. Now, remember, last week in chapter 8, we talked about the seventh seal. And when it was broken, there was silence in heaven. And then a little while later, the trumpet judgments start. Okay? And we did the first 4 trumpet judgments last week. And we talked about how a third of the plants were destroyed, a third of the ocean, a third of the fresh water, a third of the light was darkened. And then we talked about, at the end of last week, we talked about how the angel flew over the earth and said, whoa, 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 because there's 3 more things that are coming that's going to be even worse than what just went through. Okay, now we're getting to what's worse. Okay, tonight we're going to cover 2 of those in chapter 9. So, chapter 9, verse 1 says, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit." Verse 2, "And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit." Okay, this is painting a word picture, okay? John, he's kind of at an earthly perspective here, and he is watching this trumpet. There's these angels in heaven blow the trumpets. The 5th one comes up. He blows his trumpet, and he sees what looks like a star falling from heaven to earth, okay? But it's not like the asteroid or the meteor that we talked about in chapter 8. This is different. How do we know this is different? Because the way that the last part of verse 1 and verse 2 describes the star is as a person or having gender, calls him him. It's an angel. Okay, now, what we don't know is whether it's a godly angel or one of Satan's fallen angels. Okay, that's pretty unclear. Okay, the general consensus is that this is one of God's angels doing God's bidding. Okay, as opposed to one of Satan's angels that is being allowed to do what God's allowing him to do. Okay, the star, as again, is an angel or a demon. It opens the world, opens what's called the bottomless pit. What exactly is the bottomless pit? It's a symbol or a reference, if you will, to hell. Okay, where the evil demonic forces are kind of hanging out, waiting for this point in history. Okay, when they're let loose, and as far as what we have right now in verses 1 and 2, smoke comes out. Okay, the 5th trumpet is the locust that we'll get to in just a second. But in verses 1 and 2, the pit is open and smoke comes out. So much smoke fills the earth that the sky is actually darkened. Anybody remember back to chapter 8 from last week? What happened to the sun and the moon and the stars already? Okay, they're already a third darker. And now they get even darker. Could you imagine trying to walk around with it being this dark? But okay, anyway, the smoke has darkened the skies. Verses 3 through 6. Okay, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power. That's very important right there. We'll come back to that in just a second. As the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. Oh, verse 6. And in those days shall men look at this, seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Man, that's a word picture right there. They want to die, but death escapes them. It flees from them. They can't even kill themselves. Wow. Okay, these locusts are compared to scorpions. Okay, locusts hurt. Okay, these locusts are compared to scorpions here in one of those verses 3. Out of the smoke came scorpions. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Locusts plaguing people. 10 plagues of Egypt. Okay, we made that. Remember last week we made that illustration. And it may have been the week before even that we talked about the illustration how these judgments are reminiscent of the plagues of Egypt. Okay, so now we have locusts again plaguing the earth. Now, some people will tell you that these are kind of big, ugly, supernatural flying. There's nothing here to describe that. Okay, they're locusts. They're about yay big. But there are millions of these things flying around. And they're not normal locusts, because normally what do locusts do? They come in and they eat up the grass and the trees and the bushes and the fruit. They don't hurt people. Okay? They just, unless you kill yourself running away from them, like I probably would, because bugs creep me out. But the bug itself isn't going to hurt you with natural locusts. But look in verse 3. Unto them was given power. Look, what does that say there? Do the locusts have the power? Does the demon have the power? No. They were given the power by who? God gave them the power. To do what? To be like the scorpions of the earth. What do scorpions do? Sting. And it hurts like crazy from what I understand. Fortunately, I've never had it. Jim's shaking his head. Yes, that's the voice of experience. I have a feeling back there. He's helping me out with that one. There's no way that I would want to get anywhere close to a scorpion. Those things just look mean. Okay? And these locusts are compared to them not in looks, but in the power that locusts have. What is the power of the scorpion? To sting. So these locusts are going to fly around. They're commanded by who? God. To not hurt the grass or the trees or any other green thing, meaning plants. They're not here for that purpose. The damage and the judgment to those things have already been done and will probably come again. But that's not their job. That's not the job of the locusts. What's the job of the locusts? To torment people. To torment them, to sting them and make them absolutely miserable. But are they going to attack everybody on the earth? No. Who are they going to attack? The ones that don't have the seal of God on their forehead. Remember a couple weeks ago we talked about in between a couple of the trumpet judgment, or the seal judgments rather, that everything kind of stopped and God sent the angel down to all the believers and he sealed them on their forehead with the seal of God, whatever that may be. We discussed that. And now we see that come into play again, how important having that seal is. And by having the seal, it means we are part of God. We are sealed as part of God's family. And these people here that have been sealed are going to escape the punishment of the locusts. Can you imagine just kind of standing out in the street, and maybe there's a bunch of people out in the street and these locusts are flying around and they're flying and they're stinging people all over the place and you're just watching it. You don't have to be afraid because you know you're sealed. Could you imagine that? How as a good Christian you feel you have mixed emotions because you feel sorry for these people because they're having to go through it, but you feel glad because you're not the one going through it. Could you, man, I hope I don't have to see that. Look at the time period here. They're not allowed to kill them. Let me back up for a second. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. They're not allowed to kill anybody. As a matter of fact, what do we describe in verse 6? People are going to be so miserable from these attacking scorpions that they're going to try to kill themselves. And death is going to say, nope, not yet. You can't die. How miserable would you be to want to die and can't? That would make you even more miserable if you're in that situation. Okay, now moving on to the point. How long? They're giving a very specific time period to torment. 5 months. A very specific time period to torment the people of the earth. 5 months. Anybody have any idea whatsoever of why it's only 5 months? I had to look it up, I'll tell you that. Anybody know the average lifespan of a locust? 5 months. Isn't that amazing how God uses stuff like that? The average lifespan, you can look it up and I challenge you to do it. Go online or find a book or something that talks about locusts and look at the average lifespan of an insect locust, not the locust tree because that's like 70 years. But the insect locust, the average lifespan is 3 to 5 months, with the average being 5 months. I was like, wow. That just amazed me that God uses that in here. Okay. Let me make sure I'm covered everything that I wanted to cover here. All right, verse 7. We're going to read 7 through 10. 7 through 10 is going to be a description of the locusts. And again, we're not talking about these huge locusts. We're still talking about a normal-sized locust. But these things are going to be ugly. Okay, verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were as it were like crowns of gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings were as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and they were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Does that not sound like an ugly looking critter? I would not want to meet one of them things. Okay, these are supernatural. Have you ever seen a locust that look like that? I hope not. Because we're seriously messed up with our time frame if you've seen one that looks like that. But these are supernatural locusts. They're to torment people. Their main purpose to existing is to make people miserable. And I got to tell you, if I seen one of them things flying around, I would be miserable. Because I would probably have to go home and change my pants. Okay, I'll just throw it out there. That would scare me to death. And that's what part of their purpose is to scare them and make them miserable, to sting them, and make people want to die. But they can't. That's part of the judgment. It's not going to be pleasant, I tell you that. All right, verse 11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, and in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. These locusts, and we'll see in the last half of this chapter, the army of horsemen have a leader. The name of this leader is a demon, and his name is, in Greek, Apollyon, in Hebrew, Abaddon. In English, it would be the destroyer. Apollyon means the destroyer. His purpose is to lead and direct these locusts. And again, in the last half of this chapter, we're going to talk about the horsemen and the horses. to lead them